Hey team, welcome to another Too Many Projects. If you are one of the people who have joined the channel since my heat pump video, I have got some more content about the house coming on because that's been really popular. But I've just been working in the garage, tidying up a little bit. It's how I start many of my videos. It gets really messy in here in between videos. But I've got a neat little idea here, and when I say idea, I mean I've ripped someone else's idea off. But I'm not sure how it's going to go. Not fully designed it yet, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. So let me show you. There are some really good shots of this place. It's a very small garage that I have with a lot of things in it. But when I first moved in, there's some pretty good shots of how bad it was, and I'm not pretending that it is yet as streamlined and functional as it could be. So I've been making a lot of changes lately. This is one of the biggest changes. A lot of the tools were stored down here to my left. This thing I've had in my life for a long time. A friend gave it to me. He got it off a set that was chucked in the skip for. It's had all sorts of adaptions and stuff, but it's essentially not very practical. But I had a lot of tools stored in there up until recently. And now I got this thing for a steal. I got a couple of them and sent one to my friend because I've always thought these kind of like nice quality tool drawer things were very, very overpriced. And I do still think that. But this is absolutely fantastic storage of tools in three-dimensional space. It's really, really good. And it's a really tall one for a workbench height, but it's a really good place to put some of these machines that I've got that have been sitting in the shed for a really long time. I've managed to sneak the back of the pillar drill in on the shelf there, and the 3D printer sits up here really nicely. It's really easy to work on and see the screen and everything. It's a good place for machines, but I've got other machines. And the storage is coming along really well. This is my drawer I've been working on, trying to get basically loads of little bits out of that thing behind me into here. Got the socket set, got all my little bits and bobs that are usually in tons of these mobile things. They're all in here now. Got the easy access tools. Now you can just get so much in these things. But there is another tool I need to get out, which is the grinder. There's nowhere really to put it because it needs to be screwed down. And the workbench over here is the space I want to kind of keep as clean as possible. I've not been at all successful with that. It's been a storage area for a year and a half now. But I don't want to screw a grinder to it, is what I'm saying. So a friend of mine shared what she'd done in her workshop the other day, and I'm going to shamelessly rip it off. I'm going to be building this unit with the grinder on top so I can move it about. But what I need to do is, because I'd like to be able to sit under this bench. So this thing I've been considering giving it away or putting it on FreeCycle or whatever, but it's quite a nice piece of joinery. I'm not desperate to get rid of it, or at least it's fronted with hardwood. I've never really looked at it. Anyway, because I want this to be taller and narrower, so I'm going to try and dismantle it. I'm going to turn this and this into the sides and then use these three to sort of rebuild it on its side. So first job, I've got to move it out, get the last of the tools off it and just see if it's glued together, because if it is we might have trouble getting it apart, but it might not be. Look at those lovely dovetails. So I'm just gonna think about whether I want to really be cutting up something so nice. It's veneered. What's it actually made of? That's a really nice piece of furniture, but it has no value as it is. The only way this is going to work, though, is if I just cut it apart, destroy those lovely dovetails. I'm going to have a think about what I can do about that. I've thought about it, I've had a cup of tea, and I'm electing that I'm going to pull the back off, then I'm going to cut it apart. You can't stop me. I don't have a large enough flat-headed screwdriver that's sharp enough to go into the very narrow slot. So I'm filing down. This is my sharp screwdriver. I just wanted to note that this would be a lot easier if I had a grinder in here. So I'm doing it by hand. I also still feel really bad about cutting apart this piece of furniture. It's just constantly playing on my mind. And I sort of want to mention that it's really important to me to use timber. Interesting factoid, this workbench was outside the front of the house when we came in, except it was a disability ramp. And so from the front steps of the house, only a couple of steps, but we had a long disability ramp for the previous person who lived here. And it was made out of 2 8x4 sheets of 18mm ply, which I have cut in half, folded in half and screwed and glued together to make the top. I actually used the other one somewhere else. I think it is 8 feet long. And it was all constructed out of 2x4, most of which I've now built in to create this. I did have to buy a couple of bits of 2x4 to finish it off in the end, but the OSB was all out of, you know, this came from here and there. The point being, even though I'm cutting it apart, it is a good thing that we're keeping something that's been built in the world for longer, that was made out of nice timber. It doesn't need to end up in our shed for another 10 years until it rots into nothing, which was kind of the other option. Let's try that. So that's come apart nicely, and I'm just going to measure out the top and bottom and turn them into the left and right side. And then I'm going to try and recycle the original drawers, which are nice. So if you imagine what I'm going for here, I've got some casters to go on the bottom. That will become the base. And then for the height of it, I want to get 2 of these original drawers in, then a shelf, then a welder, then a grinder. That's the plan. See if we can get it cut down to size, shall we, and see how much room there is. Alright, there were some quality of workmanship issues, but I have now made a box. It's on wheels, it's square, the drawers are not entirely good quality, but they work well. They're all opening and closing. Really pleased. Now I need to do some workings out on the top here to show you the magic trick this is going to do, because obviously you can see I can't put a grinder on that. And nothing there. Quick couple of tests first though. Number 1, does it roll round on this crappy floor? Success. Does it fit under the workbench? Almost. I didn't see that I'd put a support bar at the back there. Oh well, nothing could be done about that either way. There might be an element of sticking out. What's next? Okay, let's get a bit more fun. So, I've got the unit down here, but I've got some tricks up my sleeve here. I've printed out some bits and bobs here, which are going to help us. I'm going to need a 5mm drill bit. 14mm rusty drill bits, and that'll probably do it. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing, I'm going to do it because I think it's quite fun to watch it happen here, unless it all goes wrong. Right, look, so these are carriages. These 2 are actually just jigs. And these 2 are little clips that I'm going to try, and they may not work. I'm going to try them at the end, but I'm quite excited about these 2. So let's get the thing out. So my first job is to mark exactly halfway. And the same I'm going to do on the other side while I'm here. You can't see that. Then here's my first jig. It's just a flat piece of 3D printed material with a couple of little notches on top and a hole in the middle. It's also got a little knobble on the bottom there, which is right in the centre in line with the hole. And now all I need to do to drill a hole at the same depth exactly on both sides is put my little notches on top, slide this across to my bottom knobble is on the line I've drawn, and drill a 5mm hole through that hole in the jig here. And the next job is just to bring that hole out to 14mm. And now I'm going to be using this jig, which has a similar pair of notches on the top, allowing it to sit exactly at the right depth from the top here. And this one's about 20mm deep, and it's similarly got that line on the bottom so I can get it central. And then I've got a router bit with a bead on the top, and what I can do is I can pop that on there, set the depth on my router, and it'll just use this as a guide as it spins round, and I can get the depth of this shape, and then I can drop my carriage into that hole perfectly. What I didn't think about was how to clamp this down whilst at the same time using the router. So we'll have to have a go. That didn't work. That one is much worse. Back to the drawing board. I'm going to redesign my broken jig idea. Alright, so I've had a rethink. This is the old carriage, and that 14mm hole I was trying to drill is for this piece to go into. And the problem I had was a handheld drill in the wood. It kind of went everywhere, and the hole I've ended up drilling is not central. So the other problem I had is that I didn't put any way to clamp this jig down. I could put some big ears on it and clamp it with enough space for the router to still go over the top. But it's not going to be visible, so I've put on a couple of tabs so I can just screw the jig to the piece of wood before I do the routing. And then I've printed out some new carriages which have a larger piece on the back here to go into that hole. And then I'm going to use this new jig to route all the way through rather than drill all the way through. And let me show you. Let's just do it. So that's my new jig. That will be much easier to route out. Let's sort it out. So that's after the first jig. Can you see how shockingly not central the hole I drilled with the handheld drill was? So my updated idea is to use another jig and do a larger hole with the router rather than with the drill. So that's very, very central. It's just the tiniest lip, which happens to match this carriage. We'll go in that way. So the reason I'm using a carriage is it's going to fit in there really tight and hold the bearing in here for the magic to happen. But because I'm using a carriage, I can pop this back out again. I'm not going to glue it in. It's just going to be interference fit. And if I've got any issues with where the bearing sits, do I need to lift it up, put it down? I can print another carriage and I can move it around a little bit. So it gives me a little bit more adjustment. God, it's really tight. I might have to clearance it a little bit. I want this to be flush everywhere. And I've got a 6900 bearing here. Should also be quite a tight fit. That is lovely. And so then we've got a 10mm threaded rod here. That goes through the middle and it spins far more beautifully than it needs to. You might start to see where I'm going here, but I've got these 2-ply shells that came out of the old unit that fit perfectly front to back, hopefully. A little bit of fettling to do there. And that's going to form the top. I think we're ready to put this together. Okay, so what I've done, I've taken these 2 shells that someone put in the old one and I've just routed the groove down there. It's actually pointy, but the groove is exactly the right size to fit the bar so that a tiny bit more than half of it sticks out the top, and then when I put the other one on top that matches this, it clamps them down as right in the centre of the 2, and that the 2 clamped together will be my worktop. I've got just enough space for a washer either side, I think. And I believe if I put a toolbox in here, just to help me prop it up for a second, I can take my top half, pop it on top like that, just put a couple of screws in it, then I take the toolbox out. Ta-da! All right, it's looking good. And there's going to be a grinder there. Ta-da! So, it's on wheels, that's useful. I've got some welding equipment in the bottom and I've got all the accessories and bits for the metal polishing in the bottom for the grinder. But how do I put it away? Pull out the pins. And as if by magic, is gone. Got myself a spare worktop if I need it. Vanished. I didn't want to use pins. These are just some coach bolts. I've chucked a loose washer on the end there with some holes in it, which I might use to just attach something to pull it out. Because these are really difficult to pull out sometimes. And I saw my friend struggle to pull them out in her little Instagram, and I was right. They are hard to pull out and they're really annoying. But I've tried a few different latches. You know, these are like a little toggle latch that tightens up on there, and I thought maybe about putting them on the front or on the top of the back, but nothing really works as straightforwardly as this. And I think honestly it's just useful to have an extra bit of workbench that you can pull out. I don't know whether it's going to go this side, but I had no space to sit under here. I had no grinder. That had all the grinder in it and all of its bits and bobs, and this had the welder and all its bits and bobs inside it. And yet somehow I've got more space. This is great. I love this design. Maybe every machine should be on some sort of flip out thing. Get the 3D printer, that would flip upside down into this as well. The only hateful thing I ruined is I thought this was going to fit all the way under the bench. It doesn't, because I've put a beam along the back. I didn't realise I'd done that. It does make the worktop a lot stronger though, so I will keep it, but it's not the end of the world. Still goes under the vise fine when it's fully closed. Tell me what you think. That belongs in there, that belongs in the bin. Thanks for watching. I don't know if I'm in shot. Thanks for watching. That was another Too Many Projects. I'll try and focus on doing some house stuff next, try and have a look at the ventilation system. Or I won't, because something else comes up. We'll see. But I hope to see you on the next one either way.